Okay.
So we're talking off camera before we come back on, and we were on a subject from last night, and we're also talking about the balance of power in America, and you have your three branches of government, and you have your legislative, the Congress, you have your executive, the presidential branch, and you have the judicial branch. And talking about how it might be more difficult here for things to go haywire with those three differing points of view generally and differing jobs and obligations. But where we left off, Joe Niola and Myles Gansfried. Joe, you were making a point that we were going to continue with.
Yeah, the point that I was trying to make is that, as you mentioned, there's three separate branches of the government, and the purpose of those branches is to kind of put a check on each other, so that neither one of them becomes too powerful and tyrannical. However, if those particular branches evolved in such a manner, in a certain manner, they could evolve into something that is apparently separate, but in reality a unity. If, take for example the present situation, if the Congress, all right, which is composed of individuals, politicians, they're running for office, they require a certain amount of funding in order to get into those positions. Now, if the funding mechanism was some kind of a syndicate of sorts that controlled a tremendous amount of wealth and funded those candidates for a particular reason, perhaps so that their agenda could be enacted. So now you have the Congress. Now that same ploy could be used on presidential candidates.
Well, can I say something?
If I can
What
just,
you're saying,
you can, but
yeah.
let me finish this. Let me get through the three branches.
Okay.
Okay. So, in a sense, the congressional branch would be co-opted. The presidential branch could be co-opted in the same way. Once the presidential branch is also co-opted, the judges can be appointed by the presidential branch, and therefore the entire three now would represent a particular ideology, which would be the ideology of the syndicate, the money, the power structure behind the entire system. A voting process, a general election, primaries, all kinds of devices could be continually put into play so that the populace could actually feel they're functioning in a democracy.
All right, can I say something?
No, you go right ahead.
Yeah. What you're describing really is a top-down type of change in our system. Now, interestingly enough, what happened in Germany was not a top-down, it was a bottom-up. Hitler actually created his brown shirts and whatnot. He created a force that was, in effect, a military force, which then cowed the government. The courts were frightened, the judges were frightened out of their wits, and these wonderful laws that were enacted in Germany prior to that time really went out the window. The courts no longer worked. So what you had there was a bottom-up rather than a top-down approach, which is what you were describing. Now, in this country today...
Well, before you go any further, what you're saying in effect is a charismatic leader, okay, can effectively pull down the power structure from the top.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is a charismatic leader can build his power from the bottom.
Well, okay, so he's going to build his power from the bottom.
Yeah.
And can he break the power from the top, or is it be a struggle? Or it could be a struggle between.
Germany.
Okay, so he could do that. Now, do we have a charismatic leader in this country that can actually do something about the current system?
Yeah. Well, you know,
the only one I could see now is Trump.
Well, Trump schmump. There are other things that also,
Well said.
led to this sort of thing. For example, I'll give you an example that to me was a personal event. I was waiting for my sweetheart in Stamford. Mm-hmm. She went into the library. I find myself outside the big branch of the library in Stamford here in Connecticut. And there are a couple of bridge chairs set up. And so there were some Tea Party people busy proselytizing, passing out literature and trying to talk people into seeing their viewpoint. My God, I was frightened.
You were frightened?
Frightened. They to me, were behaving like a bunch of brown shirts. There was a militancy about that organization. Now, I had never encountered a Tea Party person before, and I was struck.
Who's the guy that always ran for president? I don't even think he's alive anymore, but his followers, forever, through my entire lifetime.
The libertarian.
He's so self-described libertarian, but probably a little bit more.
Used to run every year.
Someone's going to help us out with that. But
now, are there organizations that are bottom up? And I think some elements of the Tea Party probably are.
Well,
Let me finish.
Okay,
please.
go ahead.
I'll let you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. There are elements in Montana, gun-toting elements.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think about a month ago, some of those people actually took over an American government-run reserve.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah. So I think that some of the pieces of this are in place, right?
And
now,
unfortunately,
bottom up.
Unfortunately, nowadays, anything happens anywhere, we hear about it, and it could grow into a big story, even if it's just a very small event.
Yeah.
Gets a lot of, unfortunately, probably a lot more coverage than it really deserves.
I agree with you, but let's face this.
But the reality is, we hear about it.
The reality also is that the firearms industry at large is selling body armor. Mm-hmm. Now, what the hell do you need body armor for to hunt for a deer?
Because it makes the industry a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's sold. It's sold to people as a need.
I think that's part of it. But there is this culture of building militias, I think, of building the ability to fight as a faction in opposition to what we would hope would be an ordered society. And that's nothing new. There was John Brown, in the past.
Absolutely.
It's not new, but the darn trouble is the firepower today is overwhelming. Yeah. So anyway, the point I wanted to make was
John Brown was John Brown in a sense is a folk hero, but at the same time, with a different agenda, John Brown would have been pretty damn dangerous.
Even with his agenda, he really went overboard.
Pretty damn dangerous guy.
He went overboard. It was a bloody vibe. In fact, they used to call it Bloody Kansas.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, if something happened here, I would expect that rather from the top down, it would happen from the bottom up, like it did in Germany.
Well, it's conceivable that it would happen from the bottom up. I don't think it could happen any other way, since what's on the top is already in power. So it would have to start from the bottom. But that what starts from the bottom has to compete with a tremendous amount of power. I just read an article, and it had to do with the Trump campaign, that Hillary was like 42 million ahead of Trump.
Yeah, and that's a big thing made of that in the media.
Right. So what they talk about is the winner is the one with the most money. It's sort of like a gambling game.
Yeah, well,
all right.
Of course, the media is going to.
And this whole money thing, there's no check on it. You have Citizens United. You have these PACs. And it's not what people don't realize is you have these powerful money PACs. All right, but those powerful money PACs are also part of a larger money PAC that they are, divided from. It's the amount of monetary power that is literally controlling the entire process is staggering.
And the media buys into that because who benefits most from all these big taxes?
The media is
they benefit.
also getting is being funded by that same syndicate.
Yeah, they get the advertising dollars to advertise.
When Sanders talks about an oligarchy, it's true. And what the most damaging part is what the media purports to the populace. It's always skewed for the benefit of who is pulling their strings. And the media actually has a belief in certain candidates, certain individuals, that once they get in office will do things that will benefit the people, when that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Whatever's going to be done is going to benefit what's up there.
I'm going to shed a little ray of sunshine on that, and I'm going to be
Joe the pessimist.
As you say, Myles is more the optimist.
He's an optimist. I'm more the pessimist.
You're more the pessimist.
But who's the realist?
We understand that, but I think I could say educated people. I probably could say younger people, within the context of this most recent Democratic primary, and probably the Republican primary too. Young people and more educated people are more. They're not as easily swayed by advertising as a lot of people are. I think a lot of people. I find myself immune to advertising in the sense that if somebody's saying it loud enough or saying it often enough, or feels the need to spend a lot of money saying it, they probably have lost me just to begin with.
Well, a lot of people don't realize the role that money actually plays. A lot of well-educated people actually believe that when money is given to political candidates is not because
of
any
do you feel the money plays?
Strings attached.
What roles is the money?
Well, if the gun industry is financing somebody's campaign, I'm sure that Paul Ryan felt a little uncomfortable when he couldn't vote in favor of some gun control that just hit the fan not too long ago. But
what you're saying makes sense. But the reality is, when you say that a lot of people in the United States want guns and bullets and bulletproof vests, that's really real. And if they didn't want them, it wouldn't matter what the lobbies did. There would be laws passed in the Congress that would change, in effect, the interpretation of the Second Amendment. But the reality is that people seem to love guns. I've known people who would tell me, I have 10,000 rounds in my house. What on earth do you need 10,000 rounds? People love guns.
Well, the culture of the people can be changed if the powers that be felt that it was worth doing it. I mean, the culture toward tobacco has changed. The culture, a culture of recycling came into effect. I mean, it all depends on whether or not it's going to have a severe impact on the current situation. You know, they always talk about the markets not appreciating any kind of unpredictable event.
Yep.
They like to be able to predict things because they're kind of like in the gambling business in a lot of ways. So don't do anything that is going to affect the status quo. We have the European Union right now, and it's functioning and it's working. Wait a minute! Whoa, you're breaking for that? Wow, we didn't expect that. All right, okay. The stock, it's going to affect stocks. It's going to affect the finances. The financial aspect to the human experience has become a controlling element, and it's very impersonal, and it really doesn't give a damn about the health and welfare of the human population.
I disagree with you to some extent, Joe.
I know you would.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
What I see is the people have desires which sometimes can be to their own detriment. And certainly smoking was one of those. And how did it finally get resolved? I don't think it was really the government. I think it was when Aunt Sadie died of lung cancer, and then when Uncle Max died of lung cancer, and people saw what was happening, it became more and more clear. Because why? Because medicine advanced. They were able to do x-rays, and they found that people had spots on their lungs. They learned a lot about cancer.
The correlation became fairly crystal clear.
Yeah.
Now, might I suggest that maybe a lot of the problems we face are because of something called partisanship. If a person, if a voter, if a citizen is tied to one of the two political parties, they'll have a tendency to vote. And I'm talking to you, Marty Heiser.
Is he watching your show?
I'll make sure he does. If a person is too closely tied to a political party, they'll have a tendency to vote for any old candidate that becomes the candidate for that party. And that's why you see a lot of this ruffling of feathers with people that are not affiliated with a political party being more open-minded, more independent, better critical thinkers. I'm going to say it. You can disagree, but I think they're better critical thinkers.
Well, they're better critical. I'll tell you why. Because if you say this to a young person, Bernie Sanders is a candidate and he is running in the Democratic primary. You know what they'll say? Who the hell is he? And what they're going to do is they're going to go online and they're going to Google who is Bernie Sanders,
and they learn.
And then they're going to learn. Okay, so their ability to educate, because that's what they do. They look things up. Okay, if you're not of that, if you're not of that persuasion, you're going to expect to be fed the information, and the information that they're going to feed you is the information that they want you to have, not necessarily the information that's going to make you more enlightened. So
while being a lot of problems with having the internet available to us, there's a lot of good that comes. A lot of good that comes out of it.
Because there's a lot of diversity there, and then you can make you can be more critical.
Well, don't you feel that the availability of the internet and Wikipedia and on sort of saws the legs off maybe a 30-second commercial on the television? Somebody
I think it really
hears
does.
some words,
Well, what
and
percentage of the population?
they're on the internet. They're looking it up.
I think it really does.
And so there's a different world, I believe, now. The power of advertising and the big money, I think, is becoming attenuated.
Well, what's going to happen is the power of the big money is such that eventually they will be able to filter into the internet and create sites that are going to pander to their needs.
Where do you get that from? Wikipedia is completely independent. It's funded by contributions.
It's true.
I use it extensively, and I send them money.
And there it becomes fact by democratic process, where people can say whatever they want to on it, and if enough people say a certain thing, it gains gravitas.
You're right.
on Wikipedia. Now, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad because word travels in odd ways.
Well, they wanted to keep the internet neutral, right? In other words, the internet is so that it's not controlled,
right?
And they were successful in doing that. But I would think that they would like to be able to, if they could, control the internet in the same way they control the networks.
When it comes down to it, Joe, when you say they, who is this they?
Who is that they?
Is this 1984? Who is the they? In reality, I think that a lot of corporations are run by people who have grandchildren, and they don't want to see them hurt in any way. They're people who are moral, they care, And yet, in a system in which we have free enterprise, of course, you have to have decent earnings quarterly.
Right.
But the reality of it is
the minority oligarchy at its best.
Yeah, well,
we have to trust in the goodness of people to some degree. Otherwise, all is lost.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's true. We have to, but.
If all is lost, we might as well cash in our chips now and do.
All right, it's not a question.
Go on to another
matter
world.
Of all being lost. It does require a certain amount of trust. It does require a certain amount of faith, and this is what gets me now on the current situation with Hillary Clinton running against
Trump.
Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. What about these Bernie supporters now? What are they supposed to do? Okay, they do not believe in Trump, and they do not believe in Hillary. Okay, what are they supposed to vote out of fear now?
No, they're going to the convention, and they're going to.
Let's go past the convention just for this argument. All right, let's say that's their option.
Yeah.
Either you vote for Hillary or you vote for Trump. And
no, it isn't.
Let me finish.
Well, right now, Sanders people are talking about how they're looking forward to the convention.
They
so
are?
That they can Yes.
I know they are. But
so that they can introduce their ideas into the convention and make them part of the platform of Hillary Clinton. And that's the way our system works.
That's
it's
very
wonderful.
Optimistic of you to actually. They're going to try to do that.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Whether how successful we are remains to be seen.
Okay, they're looking for Sanders' endorsement, and they haven't gotten his endorsement. And the reason they haven't gotten his endorsement is because she hasn't said anything about his agenda. She hasn't said anything about his platform, and that's why he hasn't given her the endorsement.
I'm gonna jump in here because I saw a speech that she gave. I think it was last Thursday in Raleigh, North Carolina, and first of all, I won't say that I was swayed by what she said. But having said that I wasn't swayed, she spoke, and she might as well have been Bernie Sanders speaking. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at she's just saying that, it's just to try to get Sanders voters to come on over. Or you can look at it and say that at least she was saying the right thing.
She was saying the right thing while the big pharma, while Wall Street, and while ExxonMobil were looking at her from above. Say what you want, Hillary. Do what you have to do in order to win this election. And once you're in power, you know what the true agenda is if you want to continue with your political career. That's what it boils down to. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I have this choice. Am I going to vote for Hillary because of Trump or what Trump can do with the courts, etc.? Or am I going to vote my values? Okay, and maybe if I vote my values, maybe if I decide to look at Jill Stein in the Conservative Party and say, listen, this is the closest that comes to what I want.
Green Party, I believe?
The Green Party.
Correct,
is that what I said?
Yeah, you said the Conservative Party. It's
no. Hey, thanks for catching me on that one. No, the Green Party. Yeah. Jill Stein, the Green Party, not the Conservative Party. The Green Party, Jill Stein.
Okay.
I would look at her, and then I would be accused of wasting my vote. Then I would be accused as a vote for Jill Stein, we would vote for Donald Trump. And you know what I'd have to say? Hey, listen, I have to have faith, and I have to have trust, and I have to vote my values.
Wouldn't you say that if you give Hillary your vote on the basis of her accepting some of the ideas that we associated with Bernie Sanders, if you do that, in effect, Hillary and you and a zillion other people have made a contract, okay? Hillary gets 4 years, all right? If she has violated the contract between you and these other people who want to see some of the ideas that were promulgated by Bernie Sanders in place under her, if she doesn't do that, then there's your opportunity to vote her out.
Right.
And that's the way our system works.
Just like we tried to get Sanders in during the primary. That's how successful we're going to be voting her out.
Oh, I beg to differ. If she reneges on those promises, I think that Bernie or somebody else will really come on strong.
I think that's very true. I think that's very true. That there was talk amongst the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party in 2012 of not being happy with some of the things that President Obama had done. I'll start with drones. I'll start with having people in his cabinet that were more favorable to Wall Street than maybe they should have been, and there was talk of that. And I don't think we would have Hillary Clinton on nearly as long a leash as we had President Obama. I think we'd be much quicker to and be much more ready well in advance of the next election cycle to make our case to change.
Well, part of the reason Trump, is in the position that he is in, part of the reason is because elements in the Republican Party, for example, the Tea Partiers, they felt
as opposed to true libertarians.
They felt that, listen, their agenda was not at all enacted at all, and they're so fed up with the establishment now that they and some of their associates now are putting a lot of energy behind.
We just got the 1 minute warning, but continue. We're gonna keep on talking. Joe Niola, Myles Gansfried, and myself, David Stevenson, talking about the issues. Continue.
So the point I'm trying to make is that there's a parallel now here. The Sanders people, could be the irritation to the Democratic Party that the Tea Party has been to the Republican Party, and that irritation brought about with the Republicans gave them this anti-establishment character called Donald Trump. All right, that's what happened. And what's going to happen to Donald Trump now is he will be somehow or other deprived. He will somehow or other not have the money to go against the establishment. The establishment is too entrenched and it's too powerful, and it has much more money than he has. And right now, a lot